Greetings and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Kiyonah. Today I'm going to talk with you about how I have coped with a condition called PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. I just happened to have come to a beautiful park called Pulaski State Park. Half of it's in Connecticut and half of it's in Rhode Island. And I came here a lot when I was struggling to overcome my PTSD and get to where I was in post-traumatic growth instead of post-traumatic stress. So post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is something that happens when you go through a situation of sustained trauma, like homelessness or war or domestic abuse or poverty. And going through it for a long time causes your body to adapt in ways that change your nervous system and that affect really everything about you, kind of rewires you so that you can survive the trauma. And then when the trauma goes away, you're still stuck with the same adaptive behaviors, but now they don't work so well. And if things happen in normal life that resemble your trauma, then it can trigger you and set you off. And you can either go into isolation, or you can have a meltdown, or any number of other ways that it expresses itself. And I've been struggling with it for a long time. I went through my trauma for years, like really a lifetime of trauma, but severe trauma for about 12 years. And as long as the trauma was going on, I was functioning well. I was really sharp, I had my shit together, I was on top of things. And then, when I was finally able to escape the trauma, that's when the PTSD hit. Once I was safe and stable and secure, that's when it started becoming apparent that something was not in alignment with my ideal self. And I would isolate myself in order to avoid being triggered. I would have meltdowns where I would have anxiety attacks and then just lose it. I would be threatened and attack people in a primal kind of a way. And I felt like I couldn't function at all. I couldn't get a job, couldn't ride the city bus, I couldn't do anything because there were triggers everywhere. And it was constantly making me ruminate over my trauma and catastrophize the worst possible outcome. And it's a pretty hellish experience, actually. And the reason why I like talking about it out in nature is because nature is totally accepting. It's totally non-resistant. It accepts life as it is. And I feel like by hanging out in nature, I can kind of pick up that vibe too. So, when I had PTSD, ways that I had to cope was, first of all, I had to realize that PTSD is what I was dealing with. Then I did a lot of research to understand it, and I recognized myself in my research. I recognized the things they were describing as the things that I was actually experiencing. And then, so then I began to identify my triggers and identify what had caused the PTSD. And I did all of this without therapy. It was really hard. I did get therapy for it later, but the therapy didn't help. So I started to get a handle on my PTSD, first of all, by carefully controlling my environment, by reducing or eliminating all triggers. And that's why I ended up being isolated, but not necessarily in a bad way. Then I started talking about everything so that it would lose its emotional charge. And I talked about things over and over and over again. And sometimes I could rant for a long time. At one point, though, it eventually felt like I was just rehearsing craziness and keeping the drama going. And I knew that it was time to move on to the next phase of my self-therapy. And at that point is when I started practicing the ascension process, where you practice awakening, awareness, accepting, activating, aligning, and ascending. And I'd like to go into that in more depth in a future video. So I talked about things until they began to lose their emotional charge. And then I began to reframe my story of what happened, because there was no way to actually change what happened. I don't know how to collapse old timelines yet, or time travel or anything like that. So I really just had to accept. And I still have to deal with feeling like shit all the time. Feeling like I'll never be happy again, things will never change again, I'm damaged, I'm ruined, I'm broken. But when you feel that way, everything tends to affirm it. So I had to fight really hard to learn how to love myself and to reject those thoughts. And I still have to deal with it every day on a daily basis. I started standing up for myself, and I would get a comfort kit that I can turn to with essential oils and certain musical playlists, certain clothes that I would wear so I felt armored and I felt safe. I surrounded myself only with people who understood me. I communicated with people like authorities and people like that, and I said, look, I have PTSD. You need to take it easy on me, because I don't have the ability yet to really cope well with this, so please be with me in this and help me get through it. And that worked really well. But mainly, to get from post-traumatic stress disorder to post-traumatic growth, to that phase, you have to actually process and go through the trauma in your mind until it loses its emotional charge on you. And I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to do that. For me, it was talking about it until I'm sure my partner was sick of it. And it had to do with identifying my triggers and why those things triggered me. And then finding out how to communicate in a way that honors me and loves me instead of being attacked or threatened. And doing a lot of things. Like I figured out that if I go on a nice long drive at least once a week out to a nature place, like Pulaski here, that for some reason that would balance and recharge my energy. Sorry about all the bugs here. There's a tremendous amount of gnats and mosquitoes here right now. I guess I need some essential oil. And basically it's about self-care. It's about decompressing for as long as it takes, and honoring yourself when you do get triggered, instead of just trying to push through it and have meltdowns and isolate yourself. You try to really bring yourself to bear on the task of articulating what is going on and what it reminds you of and why it triggers you. And then consciously choosing to do things that will either rewrite the story or rewire your nervous system so you relax instead of melting down. And just consistently taking care of yourself to make sure that you never get put in that kind of traumatic situation again. You can do it. I know there's people who think you need medication or you need to smoke cannabis every day or that you'll never be better again. It does change you. It does rewire your nervous system. And if you contact certain agencies, they can get you into programs like yoga for PTSD, meditation for PTSD. There's a lot of healing modalities that are especially formulated for healing from PTSD. So of course I encourage you to check those out if you're interested. I found it really empowering to take a self-defense class. Even though it was only 3 classes, for some reason it totally changed me and made me feel like if I ever get attacked again, I'm equipped. I researched the laws so that I could be equipped that way to know my rights. I made my healthy boundaries very clear to everybody so that they would not cross those boundaries. And gradually, over the past 2.5 years, I've been able to kind of relax the PTSD. And several times I've thought that I was healed. I was actually healed and I'm getting better and I feel great for a long time. And then I'll get into a funk where I have PTSD again. And I'm getting triggered again. I'm isolating myself again. I'm ruminating on the traumas again. I'm catastrophizing the outcome of some situation that reminds me of the trauma. And that's when I just really need to be fully present with it. Be fully present with myself. Go out into nature. Do things that are loving for myself. And when I mess up and I act in those bad ways again that I learned in survival, I really have to work on forgiving myself and saying, well, I'll just try again. Next time I'll just try again. I'm going to keep trying. Just keep going. Because the fact is, I'm ill. I'm sick. I'm mentally ill with PTSD. And when you're sick, you shouldn't force yourself to go to work. You shouldn't force yourself to clean your whole house and force yourself to deal with a lot of people. You need to step back, step down, and take care of yourself until you're centered and grounded again. And then go about what you're doing. And self-care and self-loving is a big part of that puzzle. As far as dealing with the old traumas, I went through long-term dysfunction with my family of origin because they're narcissists and addicts and have dealt with serious depression and addiction and stuff. But yet I wasn't like that, but I had to suffer through it and not have my emotional needs met. I went through a long time of domestic abuse, which was mainly emotional, psychological, and financial, but it was also physical and sexual. I went through years and years of homelessness, including living in motels, living in my vehicle, camping in the woods, squatting in cabins, staying in shelters. And no matter what I did, I could not get on my feet. I couldn't get approved for programs. I was put on waiting lists. I just couldn't escape it, and it caused trauma, So I think about those things, and I think about what I've been through, and I try to think about how maybe it's developed my character and helped me be compassionate and have empathy and be a strong person with patience and fortitude. And even though the negative things are true as well, or a lot of them are, or could be perceived as true, I just take the spotlight off of that. I take the focus off of that and force myself to look at the good things. And I tell myself it's not as bad as I think it is. There could just as likely be a good outcome as a bad outcome, and that people are not necessarily out to get me and sabotage me, but if they are, I'm equipped and I have people who support me. And just doing that over and over again and talking about it and processing it until it gradually evolves to where I understand it and I can accept it and feel more okay. And I look forward to getting more and more okay and more healthy and balanced and happy. And I told you a little about the self-care, like making a comfort kit, making videos, writing about it if you're a writer, talking about it with people who understand or who will have sympathy or empathy for you, going on nature drives, figuring out what needs of yours were not met and then meeting those needs yourself, learning to be fully present with yourself so that when other people are not present for you or they're present in the wrong way, you don't isolate yourself or have a meltdown or be triggered. It's a long process and it's a messy process, but you can do it. And if you need cannabis or medication, that's okay. It's just a bridge to help take the edge off so that you can cope and keep going. So I'm going to wrap it up for now. I just wanted to share with you a little about my journey with PTSD. It was years of drama and pain and meltdowns and just witnessing myself not being able to stop myself from being triggered and having meltdowns. and gradually just saying, like, I can't live the rest of my life this way. I need to either just die or I need to start getting better, you know. But you don't hit a rock bottom with PTSD. It's like low-level misery forever until you can pull out of it, or it was for me anyway, you know. And counseling did not help me at all. The one who helped me the most was a Buddhist psychologist, and he was really brilliant. So if you go to see a therapist, maybe try to make sure they're Buddhist, because the psychology of Buddhism is proven to help alleviate human suffering. And he told me to investigate shamanism and healing, shamanic healing, and especially Celtic shamanism and the Four Agreements by Albert V. Yodo and things like that, and to investigate women's healing and, you know, ceremonies and rituals and things like that. And it did help, it really did. So everyone has to find their own way through it. Everyone has to find their own way of healing and finding balance again. You might have to start your life over again. You might have to change your name, change your appearance, just to make a break with the past. I grew dreadlocks again. I gave myself permission to do whatever I felt had not been allowed before. Like the domestic abuse, my husband, if you can call him that, was always trying to abuse and punish me financially by keeping me in extreme poverty and laughing at me and really enjoying it when I was hungry and dirty and cold. So now I see it as healing when I treat myself to really good health food and nice artistic clothing and essential oils and incense, you know, or nice drives or a beautiful cup of coffee. These things are actually healing to me because they're giving me back what I felt I was deprived of before. So it is a long, gradual process, but like I said, you can do it if you want to, if you're committed to it, or you can stay stuck within it forever if it serves you in some way. We all have the freedom to choose how we want to live. For me, I didn't like it. I did not want it at all. It did not work well for me. I mean, it helped me to survive when I was in the trauma, but then when I tried to resume or to build a new life, it really held me back. I still have a lot of problems with being affectionate to people, or being soft, being receptive. Like, I always feel like I'm in a fight where I have to win at all costs. And so I'm having to develop the feminine aspects of myself again and develop my innocence again. So if you are going through PTSD, I really feel for you, and I'm here with you, and I can talk with you about it anytime that you want to. Just get in touch with me. So I'm going to wrap it up for today and go enjoy this beautiful park. Maybe walk down to the Beaver Dam or something like that. My partner and my children are over on the beach just relaxing and enjoying themselves, so I came over here to have some space. Watching the children play because tomorrow's Memorial Day, so some people are out playing and enjoying themselves. It's really sweet to be in such potence in nature, in these woods, these wild woods full of wild animals with this big, beautiful pond, and be able to play and have a good time, you know, and then go back to life again and carry that vibe with us. So remember to be beautiful, and be free, and be true to yourself, whether you have PTSD or not. Be blessed whenever you can, and be blessed, and be a blessing in whatever small ways you can. Just try over and over again. And as you go through your day, and your holiday, and your night, and your weekend, and everything else, take good care of yourself. And whenever things get tough, take it easy. And until I talk with you again, namaste, and blessed be.